This video is about choke chain alternatives. Some people like to use choke chains not because they want to choke or scare their dogs, but because they're afraid of their dog slipping a regular collar, one like this. And nervous dogs can slip collars, and if a dog has slipped the collar once, they understand how to stop short and then back out of the collar. And some folks feel more comfortable using something like this because if the dog pulls, the chain tightens and the dog can't back out. Of course, the problem with a choke chain, though, the more the dog pulls, the more the chain tightens. Now, this is on my wrist. It's going to be a lot worse on the neck. It's going to keep choking and choking and choking as the dog pulls. And it's going to be, this is hurting my wrist right now. Imagine this on your neck. And not only choking, but skin and fur can get caught in here too and be very uncomfortable. Plus, there's a noise of the check that could be bothersome for some dogs. So how do we keep our dog safe from backing out, but not choke our dog, and not fitting a collar too tight so where it's tight all the time? Probably the best alternative is a martingale, because it tightens, but it doesn't continue tightening. We just adjust it properly for the dog's neck, and it only tightens so far. It's going to tighten enough that the dog can't back out, but it's not going to continue tightening because of the stop action that we have here. And it fits loosely on the dog's neck when the dog isn't trying to pull. So you don't have to wear this tight as a collar. Now, most of the martingales are only one piece like this. So if you have a really big-headed dog, maybe a pit bull or a Catahoula, it might be difficult to slide this over the dog's head. But luckily, there are martingales that come with a snap. So you don't have to slip it over the dog's head. You can open it up and close it. And it still has the tightening action without the continuous tightening. And if you're trying to slowly transition someone over from maybe a choke chain to a martingale, you might be able to get them started with one of these half checks. I still prefer the full martingale, but this is better than a choke chain because it still has a stop action so it doesn't continue choking. And it still has the cloth around the dog's neck, but you still have the chain action here. And of course, once again, that noise can be bothersome to some dogs. Now, martingales have to be taken on and off because even though they are not as dangerous as a choke chain, they can still tighten. Some folks who work with nervous dogs might use a slip lead because it's easier to kind of toss over a dog's head if the dog is nervous and if you have to move a scared dog from place to place. Slip leads might be a little bit better than choke chains because you don't have a chain around the dog's neck. Maybe there's less chance of pulling. This is one of the cheaper slip leads, and it's nice and slippery if you need to get it on a dog really quickly. But the problem is if the dog pulls, it can still be very uncomfortable on the neck, and there's no stop action to keep it from tightening too much. This is a more expensive slip leash, and it's for a bigger dog, of course. It's from Soft Lines Inc. And it has a stopper to keep it from getting too loose, but there's still nothing to keep it from getting too tight. But with the soft rope, it's probably going to be better on the neck than a choke chain. And these are some slip leads that I made myself just using towing rope that I bought at the home supply store. This is one that I used a metal loop in. This is one that I just used sewing on the end here and on the end here for a handle. But once again, these still tighten too much. But something like this, made from genuine dog gear, or I got it from Genuine Dog Gear, it's sort of like the best of both worlds. It's nice and slippery for a scared dog, and it's all one piece, so there's not a lot of adjusting. And it has a stopper on one end to keep it from getting too loose, and you can easily adjust it. But the really great thing about it is that it has a stopper on this end to keep it from getting too tight. And notice how easy it is to adjust for the dog's neck. And see, well, right now I adjusted it too loose for my wrist, of course. But notice the stopper keeps it from getting too tight. Make this a little bit smaller. Still a little bit more. Now that's too tight there. I'll still choke. But it won't continue choking. It'll keep tightening until it gets to about right here. But if this were a dog's neck, I would probably adjust it a bit more. And now, see, it's too tight to back out, but it's not too tight to choke. Now, besides this one from Genuine Dog Gear, there are other types of martingale slash slip leash that you can buy. The same company that makes these, Soft Lines Inc., has some. And if you spend any time on a lot of the Greyhound or Sighthound sites, you'll probably see several choices there. The one from Soft Lines Inc. looks sort of like this. There's a loop on the end, and it comes together into one rope at the top, and you sort of tighten it down this way so it doesn't continue tightening. You adjust it from the top, and this part is around the dog's neck. Sorry, I don't have one to actually show you. Personally, I prefer the comfort and safety of an H-style harness. Harnesses do not promote pulling. Pulling promotes pulling. We can teach a dog how to walk on a loose leash using a back clip harness. And harnesses are probably a lot safer than a regular collar, but a determined dog can slip a harness. So personally, I prefer a harness for comfort and a martingale as a backup for safety. And I will place a video on combining a martingale and a harness. I'll place a link in the description box. So if you looked at several alternatives to choke chains, and there might be some folks who are just determined to keep their choke chain, or it might take a little bit of a transition period to stop using one, what I would suggest then is to have a choke chain as a backup and then a regular collar. It would take 2 leashes or it would take a coupler. But at least if the dog does lunge, you would try to make sure that the pressure is on the collar first, and then the check chain last if the dog tries to back out. Or what I would prefer is a choke chain as a backup and the harness as the main part. So a leash attached to the harness and then a backup leash attached to the choke chain, or using a coupler. And in the video link below, I will have a demonstration of how to use a coupler to attach a harness to a martingale. But if you prefer the choke chain, you could attach the harness to the choke chain. I'll also provide a link on loose leash walking and how we can teach loose leash walking without any equipment at all.